Hey, what's up, you guys? Marty Schwartz here of Marty Music, which is my brand new project. I really appreciate you supporting me by subscribing to this YouTube channel, and you can check out martymusic.com as well. It's Friday, and that means another technique-oriented lesson. And in this lesson, I'm going to help you start playing over changes a little bit. I get a lot of questions. How do I play over the changes, arpeggios, scales, modes, advanced blues, stuff like that? So I found one cool little device that you can then branch off. And we're going to take a basic D chord that everybody knows on guitar. And we're going to take that concept of that D chord and we're going to kind of deconstruct it and look at it and use it as a little tool to play over the three chords of the blues. The blues I picked for this lesson is the key of G. So also at the end of this video, I have a little end plate at the end of this video. There's all the different things you can click on. There's going to be a jam track video. It's just another YouTube video. You can click that at the end of this video and then practice this stuff over that jam track. I think it'll really help you. So one other tip before we zoom in is that we're using this D shape. And like I said, we're going to kind of deconstruct it, but we're using the concept of the D shape. And when you play the D chord like this, we want to know, or at least I use this little locator point, the root, to help me identify each chord that I'm using this concept over. So something to be really helpful to you is obviously knowing the strings, knowing the notes on all the strings. But for this lesson, we're going to really focus on knowing the roots on the B string. So for the key of G, we have a G7 for the first chord of the G blues. And so the G note on the B string would be right here on the 8th fret. And then the 4 chord of the blues would be C7. And we're going to play the C note that's way up here on the 13th fret of the B string. And then the turnaround is D7 to C7. So for the D, we're going to actually use our regular old D shape, and that D note's on the 3rd fret of the B string right there. So we got G on the 8, C on the 13, and then we've got a D on the 3rd. So keep that in mind, and I think this is going to be a really cool lesson for you. It may open a lot of doors for you. Also, real quick, I'd love to hear other techniques that you're wanting to work on, so I can take your requests. So leave it in the comments below. Let's zoom in and start digging into this. Here we go. All right, we're going to take a 12-bar blues in the key of G. We're going to use our middle finger to play the roots of the 3 chords of that G blues, just to start with. So the first chord is G7, and we're going to play middle finger on the G note of the B string. So 1, 2, here we go, G7, that's the 8th fret of the B string, G7 again, G7, G7, then we go to C7, which is called the 4 chord of the blues, and we're going to move that up to where the C note is, and we're going to pick the 13th fret on the B string, which is the C note, C7, C7, back to the first one, which is G7, the 1 chord, and then again. Then the D7 is the 5 chord, and we're going to play the 3rd fret on the B string, D7, then 13 for the C7, C7, then the G7. Turns around on D, so the 3rd. One more time. Now C7. Back to the G7. Now the D7, C7, then the little turnaround thing, and we'll just play. Back So that's what we're thinking of. And now there's a whole little world, and you don't even have to play the root, but that's just how I'm plugging it in. There's a whole world of notes, licks, chord ideas, all kinds of stuff that revolve around that. And that's more of the concept of playing over the changes. The cool thing about the blues is if you get lost or you're on the wrong arpeggio or you have no idea where the heck you are, you can just always resort to the good old-fashioned G blues scale and then try again. So that's what I really like about blues and getting better as a musician, is that you can always kind of resort back to that pentatonic and find your way again. All right, so this device is going to be the exact same for each of the 3 spots. So let's just start with G. So remember, that was the 8th fret of the B string. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to play the 7th fret of the high E. That's called the major third of G7. You know, just like if it was a little D shape. But we're using our middle finger on the root for this particular lesson. Okay, so that's the next thing we're going to add. So watch what happens. I'm going to play the blues faster this time, but it's this little piece. So watch, the G7. Now we go to the C7, which that root's on the 13. Back to the first one. Then the D7, 3rd fret B string. Then the C, back up to the 13. Then the G7, turn around. Then the D7, turn around chord. Okay, so now we're going to add to it. We're going to bluesify it a little bit now. So now what we're going to do is, instead of going, anytime we hit that 3rd of the chord, we're going to slide into it. It sounds really bad if you slide back. Watch. No, 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 no. We want... So we've just expanded, right? So here, now we'll do that for the 3 shapes. The C chord. Back. Then the 5 chord D. Then the C. Then the G. So as you get better at that, you don't have to start on the root. So I was trying to show you that sometimes I went right to that 3rd instead of the root. Okay, let's go back to the G again. Now we're going to add something. We're going to add the 5th of the chord, which, it's just like right from this D shape still. So we're going to play this note, which is the same fret as the high E, but now on the G. And so for the G chord, it's going to be the 7th fret of the G string. So now the improvising part is how you're playing the 3 notes. So the root's there, we got that, but then we slid into it. And then now we have this. Now you could slide into that as well, but we're not going to do that in this lesson. We're just going to use the major third as our slide or hammer on. So later you can hammer it on instead of sliding. So here we go, the G chord now. Now we have 3 notes. And if you count the passing tone, it's 4 notes. But here we go, the G7. And I get the question a lot, well, when I'm just playing the pentatonic, not the arpeggios, do I play the G minor pentatonic or the G pentatonic for the G, the C pentatonic for the C, the D pentatonic for the D? Now, you can do some of that, but when I say fall back to the pentatonic, I mean literally just the G blues scale, the G minor pentatonic. So when you get lost, you stick to the G blues over all 3 chords. Just a little tidbit there. So now we've got... So the next thing that we want to do is we're going to play this third with the passing tone. We're going to play it an octave lower. So for the G chord, it's going to be the 8 to 9, and I'm going to use my middle finger to my ring finger. So 8, 9, 8, 9, 8, 9, 8, 9, middle finger and ring finger always. And visualize that a half step below that middle finger on the G is where we pick up the last little device. And so that 8 to 9 on the D, it's the same notes as this. So just how this doesn't sound good, that's very bad. Then it's also very bad if you go 9 to 8. We always want up to the note because we're passing into a chord tone. This is not a chord tone. This is a chord tone. So the G little arpeggio that we're playing here, arpeggio meaning the notes one at a time of a chord, we're going like this. 8, 9 on the D with middle ring finger. Index on the 7 and the G. Middle finger on the root, which is the 8. And then the third is the 7 of the high E, but we're going to slide into it. And when we go back down, we still slide up on those hammer on and slides. So the way back down, 6 to 7 slide, middle finger root, 7 on the G, and then a hammer on from 8 to 9 on the D. So even though I kept going back, we're hearing this go up to that. We're not going. That sounds bad, but. Or. So you can think of it, the concept is kind of like going. Or. Either way, anytime you hit that note, we're going to pass into it to add that blues flavor. So 8, 9, 7, 8, 6 to 7. And so what I'm doing though is it's for playing over a 7 chord, and I'm visualizing the root G right there, and then now I know these devices and I improvise different elements of those note choices. So let's go up to the C chord. Middle finger on the root. So we'd have which would be 11 to 12 slide. 13 on the B is the root. 12 on the G is that fifth that I was talking about. Then, now we have that new thing, which would be 13, 14 on the D. Let's visualize the middle finger on the G root to go back to the 1 chord. Even if we don't start on that note, that's kind of plugging it in, and I can see the little groupings and things over it. The more you do it, the more you see it. And then the D, which we didn't do yet with the new thing, would be 1 to 2 slide, middle finger on the root, which is 3, the fifth, which is the second, and you can see, then it'd be 3, 4 on the D string. So now let's play around with that, and I'm just going to say what I'm doing. So the first chord is the G7. C7, middle finger, the root is on the 13 of the B. Oop. Back to the 1, G. Then the 5 chord's the D. C. Then the G turnaround. So let's say I just omit I'm going to play it faster. Let's just say I don't play the high E at all. Here we go for the G blues. See that? So we've got, and this can continue to be expanded upon. But what I always found was it was helpful to get, little concepts that then stack into bigger concepts. So basically, this concept that we're using is really using the D shape arpeggio to play over the changes. So one more time, G7, the root's on the 8th fret of the B. And when you're playing chord tones, any note is fine to end or start with over that chord. Okay, so then the C7, 13 of the B, back to the 1 chord, 5 chord, G blues scale. A little bit of the device. Now G blues wherever I am. I know G blues, my G blues scale everywhere. All right, there it was. I hope it was fun and helpful to you. Remember, right when I'm done with my spiel here, you're going to see a link for a G Blues jam track that you can click on and practice over, and I think it'll really help you. So thanks again for the support. Every Friday is another technique lesson. So I also still want to hear other techniques and concepts that you'd like to learn. Please let me know, and thanks for supporting Marty Music. We'll see you in the next video.